Uh, this is a pre-application webinar, also online with me, which as it comes time, I will unmute Mandy, and Mandy will provide collaborative feedback and inclusion to any questions that, or any comments that she may have. But let's roll. So the purpose of the webinar and the webinar objectives are as follows, is to explain the RFA application, so the request for application process, introduce you to Mandy Wilding, who is the single point of contact. Even though I am the education specialist for agriculture education, she is our procurement officer, and Mandy has done a tremendous job in helping to get this off the ground and persisting through some of the hiccups along the line. We're going to share with you the timeline, the review process, and give you exposure to the rubric and the minimal requirements. And all of this information, again, is contained within the RFA. We're going to explain the application template, which is attachment B, and that's been given as a guide to assist you as you prepare the pieces that need to be submitted within this grant application. And then there'll be some examples as to what is expected to be submitted. And these are just examples. They're not finite. It's not the absolute. It is hypotheticals, because every program is different and every deliverable associated with this grant could be different to each school. We're going to provide answers to questions, and a reminder, please submit through the question portal. And at the very end, once I close the recording of I'll close out any questions related to House Bill 2444. If you have a program of study question or other Department of Education type questions, you can open that up. So this grant is for summer of 2019. And I know you may be scratching your head to say, how is it summer of 2019? The reality is the legislative session appropriated the funding, and it wasn't until July that it became official, and that was well into our summer activity, summer engagement. But even though it is summer of 2019, there's a number of these elements that are going to roll forward into the 2020 grant application, and I'm already working with procurement on that to get that application out and live, and they'll be very similar. So if you have questions about summer 2020, please save those to the end as well, so we don't get our funding streams crossed between 19 and 20 and add some confusion to the field. So the RFA, this document is what was included within the application that was sent, or the emails announcements that were sent out. And the request for application is everything that you would need to know explicit to the grant. And if you have questions and you don't find it in there, that is where you reach out to Mandy to provide that. So prepare you back to the request, the support and guidance, or she may very well just direct you straight to me in items that we've addressed prior, and then I speak the language within the educational landscape that is CTE in agriculture, and I will help to make that happen. So the requests or questions and clarifications that come in need to happen by February 5th. So if you have further questions, please ask those prior to February 5th, due to that is the close date. Applications are due on and I have my little chat box blocking, February 12th is when the applications are due. And the issuance of notice of intent, so when you are successfully awarded at whatever amount that is, we're anticipating that to be early March. And if we have applications that exceeds the total of the $300,000 threshold, we would go through the full review process, and that's the timeline with the full review process. If there's only $250,000 in application requests, then we would verify all the eligible programs, that they've met the minimum requirements as identified within the law and the administrative rules. Then we would allocate, hopefully prior to that. So it's all depending on the total funds that are requested in the applications. Some feedback on the grant review process. This is in accordance to what's listed within the RFA. So grants will be reviewed by 3 different evaluators. So each grant submitted by ABC High School will have 3 different random reviewers. Each evaluator will identify conflict of interest, and if there's any connection crossover between a particular school, a teacher, students at that school, they would be expected to opt out of reviewing that given application. They still may review other applications, but they can't review the one that they have a direct conflict of interest with. Evaluators will have a calibration session to get them all on the same page. The evaluation criteria will be given scores of 0 to 10, 10 being perfect for that criteria area, and lower scores being less than perfect. Each criteria has a weighted value from 10 points up to 40 points. So in an evaluation area, if evaluator grants an application 40 points based upon their goals and deliverables associated with what they're asking for, in that 40-point criteria point value, they got a 5, so it'd be 50% of that 40 points, so they would get a total of 20 points within that area. There's a total of 100 points available for the entire scoring rubric. And the scoring rubric is very important as it comes to, and I want to share that with you, and we're going to bounce back to it as we move forward. But the evaluation rubric, as you're submitting your documents, preparing your documents, jump in and see what it means to me, a perfect 10 points from the grant applications will be, gives a grant application 80 points, another 70 points, another grant evaluator gives it 75 points. The average of the 3 is 75. That will be the total score that will be part of their final ranking. And in that final ranking is where Team Ag Ed will be part of giving the recommendations as to where the approved program of study has the licensed teacher. That is part of what an approved program of study is. The 12-month calendar. And it is an Oregon FFA approved chapter. Again, these are the minimum qualification requirements. The Form B, I'm sorry, not Form B, the Attachment B is a document that is shared with you in Microsoft Word, and it allows you to jump in and preload everything into a nice, concise, single location to where you can submit your submit the items that you need to submit within the grant application. So here is the template, and I would envision if you would go ahead and load it in respective of what your school district is. See it accordingly. And then this allows you to copy and paste over to verify the thank you for texting and sigil files that you need to upload. And the rest of this webinar, we're going to talk about these different files and what is exponent is to a different point breakdowns occur. Word document, my internet will allow me to open it. The Google form then requires different information that has to be submitted for the grant application. And a number of these are required. This is where the copy and paste can come in. Once you get into the item is the application but this is a normal contract that on the signature side, there are elements back to the administrative rules of signatures that have to happen. So the school district office, an authorized agent from your school district office will sign it. The law called out that the principal, your direct supervisor, is the one to sign the date at current time when you agree to the terms of the contract. So this is the document, submissions coming in. We need to have your school name, the staff here at the agency, as we combine and move things forward with the processes. So the second item that you're going to submit is your 12-month calendar of activities. And this is what you normally submit, or should normally submit, to the state FFA office as you submit your budget. Perspective back in time, or I'll get to the 3-month calendar here shortly, but this is the 12-month calendar with a myriad of events to September fair. So somebody could argue that, oh, well, they listed some of the things that they were going to do, but it wasn't detailed in order to get full meant and what the focus student area was going to be. So this is another artifact that somebody could submit as here's the dialogue I had with my administration. Administration approved it, and we went about and did these amazing things. So in that, the items are items that are approved by your school administration. Now, arguably, your calendar is always part of what that approval cycle is. What is the method that you had in communicating with your administration that this funding is available? Here's what's happening. So in that, submission number 4 that you will share is the narrative. Now, this is where I imagine we're going to get the widest variety of application. Here within those dates presented in the table format, but then within the narrative, it is expanded. And this is where the narrative is where you're going to accrue 40% of the total points available. So in it, you need to have goals and deliverables clearly identified. Reduce lunch, special education students, English language learners, are students who could benefit the most through participating within the FFA organization. Additionally, these goals need to be communicated in SMART format. Go to use narrative that is being presented, or it is presented how the number. Here's the narrative rubric areas to see where, and the grant is intended to support days beyond your current school district level. So as we go back to, and I'm going to jump back over to my submission site. If I can find it, there we go. So I am ready to submit some of these documents, and it's a matter of selecting and going to, here is my information certification form with the signatures. Now, it should be in a PDF. I'm doing it as a Word doc for demonstrations. Click upload. And it's telling me, oh, you have an invalid file type, Reynolds. You can't do it. So it's only going to allow you to select PDF documents. And I just calendar and historically underserved my objectives are. So in that, questions were answered up above. Questions template. And this is the grant need. So as to who should be priority, who aren't currently funded, and we said, okay, we get that. But what's the next step? Because it is penalizing the doing. So you need to list historically 2018 summer extended duty contract days for that school year. So you will load that in to the system on how many days you had. So in 2018, with Measure 98 additive funding, I was at 35 days. 2019, I was at 38 days of summer contract duty. And then, no, I'm not there yet. So how many days, and I have a little form. So within my 9.5 days a day. Next question is, what is your level of your FFA advisor, FFA coaching stipend? Now, somebody could argue that this is unrelated information, and the answer is it's not, because if a school district, due to contract-wise, is obligated, if they're going to offer extended days to any one given teacher, they have to give it to all teachers, and there's contract language out there as such. So the workaround that some of those school districts will do is they will have an extended FFA advisor coaching stipend. So during the 2018-19 school year, my FFA extended duty coaching stipend was $4,500, the same as the assistant basketball coach, same as the assistant football coach. Same thing, same school year, it was $4,500 because it was flat contract. Now, if somebody lists up here that they have 0 days, summer days, and then they have $20,000 listed down here at value, respective of how it's being identified. My next question is, how many days are being asked for? Is 9.5 days are being asked for through this FFA summer contract. And I load in 9.5, jump to the next area. What is the rate of pay? Just was kind of cool how it did, identified as such. I want a copy to be sent to me so I know exactly what was submitted, and click submit. Now, as I click submit, it's not going to go through because I missed some of the questions up above that are required questions. Told of and day supplant, it's meant to supplement what was done and what is being done to provide opportunities for students. So in that level of coaching stipend, level of advisor, and then total days requested, rate of pay per day, the total dollar value, and total. It's all done through this portal. You have until the deadline to get it submitted. And are there any questions? So to that end, the question was asked in a 2-teacher program, and this is what I want to do. Maybe. Hang on, I'm trying to see if I can sequence the questions. And it's not going to let me. Well, the question is, in a 2-teacher program, do we need to submit separate narratives and applications in the Google form, or can we submit one for the 2 of you? The question, I bounce back to you. You're going to have 2 different applications because there's 2 different contracts for each teacher that's being put forward. So it would be 2, and the deliverables of teacher 1, the deliverables of teacher 2 may be copy and paste very similar. But your administration is supervising you independently. Even though you're both teaching first period every day of the school year, you have different needs and resources and requirements and expectations with that period 1, just like as you're working with your students, similar to. So next question is, and hang on a second, I'm going to try to see if I can do some terrible so let's see if I can do that. So the next question, will our teacher journal report from the summer be detailed enough? We download our AET program of study that generates our documentation. I'm going to leave that to your discretion. Is it going to give details to what it is that you were anticipating doing? Now, this is the application for the funds. Within the applications for the funds, the annual report is going to be the piece that would be submitted on the backside. And I think that's would be what you would submit as documentation as meeting your goals. And then essentially your administrator saying, yes, indeed, you were working towards and you were achieved your goals, you provided those deliverables, 15 more students, 60 more students had increased access than would have previously been done. So the next question is, in the example, you should only base contract divided by the number of days to arrive at the per day cost, but shouldn't that be include employer paid payroll costs like PERS? And the answer is yes. And I was giving you simple process how to. So you need to work with your business office on those days, those benefits, respectively. Next question. The daily rewards are actually different at the two schools. You are correct. So as you submit, it is based upon your contractual location, and your administrator, your supervisor, is the one that would verify, would vouch, would indicate where that is. So one school system that's on the east side of the state may be asking for 35 days of contract time. And the compensation that they're asking for is less than a teacher in close to the metro area that would be equal at 10 days of requests versus 35 days. So it is a bit of apples and oranges, but the way the program is identified is providing contract days to teachers who are providing opportunities to students. My school only pays me 10 days, but I've recorded the work, and more than that, can we submit all of those hours worked? That is a question to your administration. And if you go back to the email that was sent out, I would have to pull the date, through the listserv about the successful passage of House Bill 2444, I cautioned you and urged you at that point to get your administrators to sign off on any and all activities that you were doing outside of your contract in order to qualify for. So it's your administration and your school system that would need to document the hours that you worked in order to qualify for that. So I'm still looking now. There's some more questions coming in. And apologize for the dramatic effect. And I'm getting the question. So sorry about that. So the next question is a two-person program. One teacher has 30 days, the other teacher has 0 days, and they're trying to get a 15-day summer contract for the second teacher. Do we submit that we already have 30 days and we are asking for 45 or 15 days? So my question back to you is, for teacher 1, you would report 30 days. Teacher 2, you would report 0 days. If you're working with your district to get additional days or to balance those days out, that's a conversation moving forward for the 2020 contract grant. If you're saying that we want to add 15 days onto teacher 1 with the 30-day contract, you ask for the 15 days at that appropriate pay threshold for that teacher. If you're asking for 45 days for teacher number 2, you ask for that 45 days. And the need threshold for teacher number 2 is going to be higher for teacher number 1. And it could likely happen that teacher number 2 could get funded at full request, where teacher number 1 doesn't get funded based upon how the scores breakdown work. So in that, it's the reality of how this was put together. No harm, no foul, but there's limited funds, $300,000, and we're trying to stretch it the best we can. And the next question is, I get an FFA coaching stipend, but I also receive an extended contract that does not specifically state summer use. I don't use all my extended contract for summer. A lot of the school year. Is that a problem with the grant application? This is where you come in conversation with your administration. Many schools have what's referred to as extended contracts, to where what's occurring during state convention, what's occurring during spring break, what's occurring during Christmas break are extended contract days. So it's a matter of your administration identifying the days appropriate to summer compensation, and then there's the caveat, your total compensation would need to be accounted for, and then what your coaching stipend is. So it does add to some complexities onto your application, but you need to put that forward in the narrative, and then in the coaching threshold area, that's where that would be teased out. Now, prior to the evaluations, I will not be an evaluator, but I will be doing some sorting and sifting of some anomalies that may exist, that a school has 0 summer days, 0 extended days, but has a coaching stipend for $25,000. And if that is the case, then we would go from there. So, and let me grab next question. So since I get nothing for coaching in the school year, my principal has said to use those paid days as my school year pay. And we could ask for my summer work in this grant. Is that actually true? Would that be okay? It's the conversation that your administration signs off as your direct supervisor as to what they did or did not ask you to do, and then you would be pursuing funding accordingly. So at face value, what you say, I would envision that, yes, your principal said, therefore, here's my total days, here's my coaching stipend, here's our total grant request and activities that took place. So next question is, so school budget for summer contract is zeros. Developed some days paid for 10 days through career pathways, and then 15 days through Measure 98 high school success. None of those funds in 2019, none of those funds were used when documenting 2018, do we go on zero budgeted or do we, it trailed off and I don't know if we lost the total question. The answer is those were revolving funds on pathways and high school success. You need to account for that there was a desire for your school system to get you there, but those are revolving funds or not infrastructure funds. So your current budget is at X amount. And then the evaluation committee would tease that out. But that's a good wrinkle. So we are about 15 minutes out from being concluded as to our published time. Is there any other questions? Let me look on my participants group, which I can't. And Mandy, I'm going to unmute you. Mandy, is there anything you would like to add that hasn't already been addressed?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ronald. I just wanted you guys to hear my voice and know there's a friendly voice on the other end of any questions you may have. I likely won't have the answers, but I'll be the single source to get your questions asked. And then I will be taking all of those questions and working with Reynolds to craft the answers so that we can then post the questions and answers out to everybody. And we will do the same with the questions asked today in this webinar so that those can be sent out to everybody. Hopefully that you'll be comfortable just sending those questions to me and know that I'll work with Reynolds to get them answered for you. And that's it.
Very good. I see no other questions have come in. And within that context, open up for other questions unrelated to Measure 98. Or I'm so, oh my goodness, that really took me back. Unrelated to House Bill 2444. Are there any questions explicit on that? If not, I don't need to keep you guys any longer than I've already kept you. Thank you. I know you on the east side, you're already well into the 5 o'clock hour, which is a normal practice. But thank you for all that you guys do. It has been super exciting to be working on the inside with these pieces, even though we're delayed in our implementation and delivery. It is awesome to see the great stuff happening. I see one more question. So the question was on the 12-month calendar. You want that to be in July to June 2020. And the answer is yes to that. And I know some school districts have different calendar cycle, but the reality is the funding of this is tied to the biennium. And it's going to be a little bit different in summer of 2020. But yes, it needs to be July 1 to 2020. You guys rock, keep doing your stuff, and we will connect with you the next time, probably in person for me. It'll be at one of the local events or at state convention. And again, thank you for all that you do. We'll talk to you later.